Hello, sports fans. Craig here, and we have Rick back, available and able to help on a Monday night. Happy to see him. Appreciate his time. Rick, how are you tonight?
Good. I'm good. Interesting day in Major League Baseball with copious amount of trades for today. There's some significant ones that we'll talk about, but all in all, everything pushed to the very end. And of course, what did the Red Sox do? They made headlines on deadline day.
Yes, they certainly did, and that's what I was going to lead off with because, in my opinion, the Red Sox made by far the most significant deal of the day, acquiring Adley Rutschman from the Baltimore Orioles. Adley Rutschman, for those who don't know, is a switch hitting catcher in the prime of his career. Red Sox paid heavily. They gave up Carlos Narvaez, who is a decent catcher in his own right, and also they sent three other prospects to the Orioles. But I think what I was going to tell you off the air, I didn't get a chance, is that I'm sure that when Rick Wyman saw this trade, he was swimming in the dirty water in the Charles because I think it's a great deal for the Red Sox.
Well, there was a need that had to be addressed. And the thing is, you've got good management there. And the thing is, had we had this discussion, let's say at the end of June, we would still identify the need, but we wouldn't talk about the time frame that it would take to benefit the organization. We would be looking more long term than anything else. And as it stands right now, they had to expedite the situation because the need had to be addressed. Gave up a catcher of the future. No time for Carlos Narvaez to be up and coming in August and September. So a tremendous acquisition, and for Baltimore going nowhere, more depth. And the thing is, this is what Boston does each and every time. They've got a great farm system, and the thing is, they develop well. Hartford the other night had a chance to see some of the stars that are up and coming. Pawtucket, for many years did extremely well in terms of developing future major leaguers for other teams, as the Red Sox simply filled the holes that need to be addressed come playoff time. And again, they do it because their farm system is tops one of the top teams in Major League Baseball.
Well, I was happy because last night we talked about giving up on Arias, and they did not have to seed Arias in this deal. Yes, they gave up their number two prospect, who is a fine prospect, a pitcher, and a couple of other guys that are good prospects. But, when you can acquire a guy in the prime of his career who's been an all-star in the past, and I think he could well discover his all-star form again. Red Sox also get a potent bat in the middle of the lineup. I think it's a great fit in the Red Sox lineup. And I think the Red Sox really stole the day. As much as they gave up a lot, they got a lot.
Well, plus they made some other minor deals as well to round out the roster. So injuries, if guys can get back into the lineup and start contributing, be in contention by at least September, early September, you don't have to be leading, just have a shot. This is where everything starts to come together. And again, the Red Sox surprisingly doing wonders this summer, the summer of 26, July exceptional, their best ever in team history in terms of win totals. And they're off and winning once again, sweeping the Dodgers 1-2-3. So
Yes, it was
we'll see what happens if that trend continues in the month.
1-2-3, and the Dodgers looked pretty ordinary against a very inspired Red Sox team. There was another trade, Rick, earlier today that I thought was significant, and it involved the Red Sox division rivals. That was the Tampa Bay Rays, as the Rays strengthened their catching position, and they acquired Liam Hicks from the Miami Marlins for three prospects. Hicks is having an excellent season, and I think he'll be a great fit in the middle of that Tampa lineup. He doesn't have the power of Adley Rutschman or maybe the pedigree, but this guy is a solid catcher having a very solid season. I think the Rays definitely strengthened themselves today.
You can also man first base on occasion as well. So
Yes.
again, the Rays very busy. A lot of smaller deals, but this is going to be one that is going to help. You've got that versatility, really, either behind the plate or at first for Hicks, Braden Taylor, Jacob Kisting, and Adrian Santana. Got to give up something to get something. And the Marlins also looking to replenish their lineup because, again, they made a few deals in the offseason and now continue to be constantly trying to evolve at a very cheaper price, if you know what I mean. The
Yes.
Marlins don't go all out and spend a lot of money, so they try to
Nope.
do it from within. So they do it in the offseason, they do it at the deadline. You want some of their talent, they'll gladly give it up if the price is right.
The other thing too is I like Liam Hicks, value the player, and he's also a Canadian. So nice to see a Canadian getting into the pennant chase and hopefully chasing and pushing into a playoff situation. But let's talk about the Toronto Blue Jays because we ended last night and there was nothing really happening other than Jamison Tyone, but that changed in a big way late last night with the deal of Kevin Gosman to the Cubs. And again, today, the Jays made a couple of significant splashes. They acquired Soriano from the Los Angeles Angels for Arjun Damala and a couple of other prospects. And they also acquired Spencer Arrighetti for Dalton Varsho, also sent away Jeff Hoffman. So a lot of people coming and going in Toronto. How did you feel that the Jays did on this trade deadline?
I thought that they managed two good deals. The Varsho trade, I don't know. I'm not sold because I mean he wasn't having a great year. We'll have to see what transpires in terms of the talent that they managed to get back. It's kind of a wash in that situation. But again, the Soriano trade I really like because the thing is he's going to be perhaps your number one guy, maybe your number two guy next year. Anyways, he'll be part of the top three rotation. So as the insiders on Sportsnet touted earlier, you don't have to shop for that number one guy or number two guy or number three guy in the offseason because you've got him now and you've got him for a couple of years under contract. It'll cost you a few bucks, but still a good move by Toronto to shore up their pitching. And I've always said time and time again, if it's not the starting five, it's the bullpen that the Jays have got to be aggressively pursuing, especially in the offseason or again at the trading deadline. They've got to do something. So okay, so Varsho's gone. And you know what? We've talked a lot about some of the trades that happened late. And with the Jays, of course, you know, peddling Jeff Hoffman to Minnesota, really a no brainer there. They got a couple of bodies, some warm bodies to see. And these guys, we'll have to check out Baseball America and how these guys stand up. Desan Hill, John Klein, and Damari Pena. Don't know the book on these guys yet, but let's see what they can bring to the table. At least they've got two pitchers out of that deal. And again, when you see that Cubs deal, I know you like the Josh Smith trade. They gave up on a Canadian. I was looking at some of the listings on the Players Pedal today in Adam Mako. I guess he's
Yes.
part Croatian, Canadian Warren type thing. And
Yep.
so kind of surprising there. Josh Smith, he'll come in handy in terms of his utility role. But again, Jays in this one trade yesterday that happened later on in the evening, and Kevin Gosman for Brett Bateman and Ty Southacene,
Yes.
some infield help. I've got a funny feeling Gosman's going to wind up doing his thing with Chicago and come back to Toronto next year. I mean, the price will be different, but his accolades for Toronto upon hearing of his trade, the guy's a keeper, loves the city, loves the country, loves the team. Why wouldn't he come back?
Agreed. And I think that's not beyond the realm of possibility, Rick. I think the Jays still have a decent nucleus. They certainly didn't do a full teardown. They did tear down in certain spots, but I think the spots that they let people go, I think that a lot of the guys were expendable. I mean, Jeff Hoffman wasn't pitching in the ninth inning. He wasn't pitching in the eighth inning. And when you're getting rid of sixth and seventh inning relievers, those are not what I consider key pieces. Dalton Varsho is a rental. So I like it in the sense that the Jays get two additional starting pitchers, fairly
Yes.
young, under club control. You add that to Trey Yusevich and you add that to Dylan Cease, you've got the makings of not a terrible rotation next season. So it's not beyond the realm that the Jays could be very competitive next season.
And what about Gosman coming back? You don't have to offer him a ton of money, but the thing is enough to keep him happy. And the thing is at number 4 or number 5, or, maybe develop the kids as they come over type thing. So you get that added assurance. So maybe that's something that management may want to pursue in the off season. Listen, he may fall in love with Chicago, but the thing is, I think he loves Toronto.
It certainly seems that way. He was very emotional when he left. I can
Yes.
understand why. Toronto's a beautiful city. I've been to Chicago. It's a nice city too. I don't see any reason why Gosman wouldn't come back if the money is decent and they give him a little bit of term. He's not going to get a 5-year contract next
No.
time in free agency.
No,
But if you gave Gosman a couple of years at a reasonable dollar amount, I think he'd certainly consider it.
uh, I'm thinking maybe 3 15 to 20 mil a season.
Yeah, I think if you gave him a 230, 2 years, 30 mil, I think he'd certainly look at it. He may look at a 3 year with a slightly less, 3 years at 39. I'm just throwing out random numbers, but I think that's his market value right now. Now, the other thing is if Gosman turns it around in Wrigley Field and becomes the pitcher he was last season, you have to revise those numbers. But, you look at Soriano for Gosman, just taking those two guys, Soriano has very comparable numbers and he's a lot younger. So I think what the Jays did in many ways made a lot of sense. A couple of other teams I thought did very well today at the trade deadline. And this one team I'm going to mention really came in late. I mean, they were not doing much, and all of a sudden, wow, bang, 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 right before the deadline. And that's the San Diego Padres. The San Diego Padres picking up former Blue Jay Robbie Ray from the Giants, and also picking up Casey Mize, who's a very decent starter from the Detroit Tigers, the Padres, right in the thick of the wild card. I thought they did really well at the buzzer, Rick.
Well, the Robbie Ray trade is interesting. Getting the lefty, giving up a righty and an infielder, but again, the Giants not going anywhere, and the Padres got to hope for a wild card shot, anyways. But again, Robbie Ray is going to help, and another pitcher in Casey Mize, and they also get a third baseman in Gage Workman. But it's just one of those things where the Padres always wind up playing the second fiddle in that NL West. Not a bad
I
team at
wonder
times,
why. Tell me
not
why,
a
Rick,
bad
because
team, but they don't spend as much as the Dodgers, and they don't have that appeal that LA has in terms of drawing the big name talent. They do have some big name players, but simply can't compete with the Dodgers. So again, try to get into the wild card situation if you can. Turn things around in the month of August and September, and see what happens. But again, some of the other teams almost non-existent. Colorado didn't do anything. Terrible. Some teams just I guess they're happy with the luxury tax money. Take the money, put it in their pocket, and worry about other things. I want to ask you a question in regards to this scenario today. What
sure.
about the players who didn't get traded?
Yeah,
There's
that's
some big names out there that we speculated about that didn't get traded, and I'll begin with George Springer.
well, I think here's the issue with George Springer, Rick. I mean, George Springer at this point in his career is essentially relegated to a designated hitter. So, if he could play the outfield, he would have more trade value. The reality is for the contenders, there's not a lot of contenders that need DHs. And the guy is a rental, no doubt about that. So I think that certainly hurt his market value. And I think that's probably the reason that he wasn't traded. As far as if you want to talk about Shane Bieber and Max Scherzer, well, I wouldn't take a chance on Max Scherzer at 42 years old. I mean, he just hasn't been effective enough. And even Shane Bieber, much younger, these guys just haven't pitched well enough to get interest. And you know as well as I do that, pitching is a highly desired commodity. And, you basically, if you have two hands, 2 feet, and a pulse, and you can pitch, you get consideration. I think that tells you what most major league teams at this stage of the game think about those two pitchers.
Well, someone had to take a flyer on Bieber. Scherzer, yeah, I get it. It's not going to happen. And we're not going to play the ageism card here by saying 42, he's done. I mean, I was thinking maybe a role where he could come out somewhere, some lineup, go 2 or 3, or maybe even 1, 2 innings and contribute, because he does have good stuff when he's on. When he's on, but the thing is, there's no way he's starting and going 5, 6, 7 right now. I mean, your teams would need him to plug and play, but kind of surprised there. But Bieber, I mean, here's a guy that came to Toronto highly valued last year.
Yes.
And the thing is, he did contribute, but things didn't quite work out in the offseason because of his elbow and what have you. Came up, good start, bad start, and whatever. And the thing is, someone surely had to take a flyer on this guy just for the sake of getting that potential arm in the lineup.
I think, again, here's a guy who's a rental. He's going to be a free agent. So he'll have that same opportunity in a couple of months. Unfortunately for Bieber, I just don't think he pitched well enough, Rick, to merit interest. I mean, you look at his numbers last year when he was with the Jays, his splits were heavily skewed. He got tattooed by right handed hitters. he was great against left-handers. I didn't look at his splits this year, but when you have an ERA of 5.7 and you're a starting pitcher, you're not going to get the same interest as you normally would, even if you're Shane Bieber, quite frankly. So, I feel bad in a way for Shane Bieber, but, Shane Bieber can rest his head on the pillow in Houston, knowing that he's going to get several $1 million more before he leaves Toronto, and then he can carry on with his career.
Well, when that first happened last year, I thought initially, okay, good trade if it works out, but the whole injury situation and kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth. Again, it's an experiment that he's not going to resign in Toronto
No,
unless Blue Jay management gets down on their knees and says, okay, let's try this all over again and do the reset. But wasn't crazy about it. But just one of the three Jays that didn't get peddled off. There were other names as well that even players that said, I'm not going to be traded. And I was one name that really jumped out at me in regards to turning back the trade. Had the story here lined up just a little while ago where players actually said, you know what? I'm not going. I'm staying. I like it. I've got the no trade clause. I'll run that. I'll put that into effect. So I've got to applaud that. It's been trying to go through the list
Jacob
of
DeGrom
names.
was the player. Yeah, Jacob
DeGrom,
DeGrom.
yes. Okay.
And that actually was commented upon on MLB Network, where the Rangers wanted to deal him, and there was interest. But Jacob DeGrom simply said, "I like it here in Texas. I have a complete no move clause, and I'm staying." So
A lot of
sorry,
people don't
Texas.
like those no move clauses, but you know what? In some cases, if a player is content playing in a city, getting paid for his efforts, hey, why not? So I just think it's one of those scenarios where there are pluses and minuses, but more often than not, it's actually good to see someone saying, you know what, you're not trading me this time. I like it here, and Texas Rangers still in the hunt
Well,
in the
that's what I was
American
going to
League.
say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, they've got a shot. So maybe he could be a key figure in terms of, being able to do what they have to do. We know what the Dodgers did. Do you think the Braves have got enough in terms of, trading deadline moves that they should be able to contend for the National League title with the Dodgers? And that's how it's going to play out. Unless
Uh,
Milwaukee gets
I would
does an
say
about face. I don't know. I can't see anyone but LA and the Braves in the final.
Milwaukee, honestly, I was surprised. They didn't do a whole lot at the deadline. Basically, they picked up Dustin May and they picked up Jojo Reyes from St. Louis. But, I looked at those two guys, and my first question was, these guys are going to be part of the Milwaukee pitching staff? They're certainly not going to be in high leverage positions. And Milwaukee has a lot of depth. They also picked up, I believe, AJ Minter. So Milwaukee did make some moves, but I was surprised that Milwaukee didn't make a bigger splash. Wondering if there was financial considerations there, but I was honestly surprised that the Brewers were as quiet as they were. And when the Dodgers pick up Skubal and you do nothing, I think the reality is the distance between the two teams increases greatly. Speaking of another National League team, the Cubs were very busy today. Not only did they pick up Gosman, but they picked up some more players as well. I know they picked up Tyrone Taylor. They picked up Clay Holmes. They picked up Zephyr from the Angels. You wonder now, have the Cubs closed the gap on the Brewers?
We'll have to find out very shortly because the thing is, the Cubs are scrambling, and the thing is, a lot of potential. It just hasn't played out the way that they thought it would this season. So they're shaking things up a bit. And why not give it a shot? Roll the dice here in August and September and see what plays out. And you never know. This is a time, Craig, where you're going to see one, two teams surprise you in the stretch run to the beginning of October. There's going to be a team that's going to turn things around rather quickly and start to get hot because maybe it's all coming together. Injured players are returning. Boston's got a couple of injured guys that could come back and make a phenomenal difference in terms of where they're going in the next couple of months and the postseason. And so it's always interesting. It's my favorite time to watch baseball. I love opening day. I like the start of baseball, but August, right after the All-Star break,
Yep. That's when it gets
July,
serious.
August, and September are the best 3 months of the season.
Yeah. That's when it gets serious, Rick. And that's when you see the men are separated from the boys. Let me give you a couple of trades I thought were really astute trades, and they went way under the radar. And the first trade I'm going to mention is that the Pittsburgh Pirates, believe it or not, made a very astute acquisition. They picked up Luke Weaver from the New York Mets, and there's a lot of thinking now that he will be the closer for a Pirates team. And this Pirates team is right in the thick of it, Rick. This guy could be the missing piece that propels the Pirates to the playoffs.
Well, I guess the Mets are pretty well kicking everyone to the curb right now and tried to get rid of whomever they could by the trading deadline. So why not? It's not working in New York. And as we've said before, you've got to move on. So Weaver, yes, he could do some serious damage for Pittsburgh in terms of could be one of those teams, Craig, that certainly turns things around in the stretch run of the season. I mean, we've got a 6-month season. We're down to the final third. And
Correct.
listen, just like the Cleveland Indians in Major League, led by Ricky Vaughn, had a chance to watch that movie today. Things can come together for teams and they can turn the corner. Miracles do happen in baseball, and it's always great to see.
Especially when you have an owner like Rachel Phelps, Rick, who has a way of getting people upset. And she was a
Yeah.
great motivator for the squad. She did realize it at the time. And that was the funniest part of the movie. I'll digress. There was one other trade I thought that was really under the radar, and that involves your buddy Tony Rima and the Chicago White Sox.
Yes.
The Chicago White Sox made a very sneaky trade. The Chicago White Sox made a deal with the Colorado Rockies, acquiring Brenton Doyle, an outfielder. Now, let me tell you, Brenton Doyle is not a great hitter, but he can do everything else. And a young White Sox team with that pitching staff, this guy is a gold glove caliber center fielder. He's going to help that defense in Chicago tremendously. He's got speed. He's got a little bit of power. If he can get his bat back at least a little bit, this is a terrific get for the White Sox. Exactly the kind of player that I really felt they needed.
Good pickup for a team that's on the rise. And again, they've managed to hold on to first place so far, and it's always going to be an interesting watch for Tony, my good friend Tony Rima at CTV, because he's the only White Sox fan that I know of right now in Greater Sudbury. Unless there are people out there, please let us know if you're a White Sox fan. We'd love to hear from you. But I mean, after
Yes.
going through some dreadful, some horrendous, some ridiculously bad seasons, it's good to see a team turn it around, just like Pittsburgh before, where the owner just insisted on keeping the luxury tax money and not spending it. Now trying to make a difference and being competitive to show the fans in Pittsburgh. Don't forget, they haven't won a World Series since '79, Craig. You were just a kid
Yes.
then. It's just one of those scenarios where, it's been a while. So Dave Parker was a co-MVP in that World Series, by the way. Just, I don't know, you were 5, 6 watching that World Series at
I
that time.
wasn't 5 or 6, Rick. No, 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 no. I remember that team very well. And
And
that was
so
that was a
it's
team managed by Chuck Tanner.
That's right. It's been a while for Pittsburgh, and it's great to see teams make an effort to try and do something. And as for the Mets, for all the Mets fans out there, and there are a lot of them, it's just
Yes.
a matter of you got to regroup. You got to regroup. This isn't working. And the thing is, if you're Paul Bichette, you don't want to be there. We'll trade you. We'll trade you. We'll get rid of that money and spend it on someone else who wants to be in New York.
Well, I can tell you this, Steve Cohen, who's the owner, I'm sure he's got a lot of spare TNT in his office. He'll blow it up, and here's the bad part. He'll blow it up and he'll spend more money on other guys, and they'll have the same result.
Okay, that's a fearless prediction. So I see, speaking of fearless predictions, our good friend Steve Phillips, former Mets general manager, and he's been involved with several teams, had all kinds of great trade possibilities going on last week. I don't know if any of those trade possibilities that he hinted at for the Jays actually worked out,
Just the Gosman deal.
going to Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, he was convinced that Springer was going to Boston. That didn't work out. He was convinced that the White Sox were going to give up on their shortstop to Toronto for a couple of players. That didn't work out. So I think we're just right up there with Steve Phillips. We can speculate all we want, and if something comes to fruition, fine. But if it doesn't, we're still doing this.
Speculation is just as good as anybody else's, Rick, and don't let anybody tell you any different. Before I leave the trade deadline, I'm going to give you one really off the wall here. There were a lot of prospects traded. There were a
Yep.
lot of guys that changed addresses. But there was one trade today involving the Red Sox that really got my eyebrows raised. And that was that the Boston Red Sox gave up on a very young and very promising Marcelo Meyer. How the mighty fall, Rick.
It's one of those things now. Is there a pressing need to win right now? You've got to give something up to get something. And that's the whole thing. And maybe it just came down to management. You know, they gave up Eric Miller and Carlos Gutierrez for Marcelo Meyer from the Giants, or the Giants, excuse me, Meyer going to San Fran. But Red Sox get a couple of picks. And sometimes you just take a look at the situation and it's hard to describe. It's like hockey at times too. It's like a lot of sports. You just think that, okay, we've got to part company because they might see something that tells them that it's just not going to work out down the road for them. And the thing is, I guess, and you see it, there's a win now mentality in professional sports. You win now, you make money. And that's what corporations are obsessed with. It's all about winning, and you do whatever you can to make that happen.
You know, the amazing part was that Marcelo Meyer, just a couple of years ago, was part of the great triumvirate of Red Sox prospects:
Yeah.
Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer, and Roman Anthony. Guess what? There's only one guy on the major league roster right now, and that's Roman Anthony, and he's hurt. So it just can tell you what a strange day it was. That was the one deal that I went, wow, the Red Sox really cut bait on this guy. And I think it tells me that they just couldn't wait, and they didn't want to wait anymore for Marcelo Meyer. As we said last night, same thing applies with playing opportunities. You only get so many. And if you're not there, it just doesn't happen for you.
Well,
So
and that's the emphasis is on winning now. I mean, okay, the things are really rolling well for Boston. So the thing is, you don't take any chances. And the thing is, if you can get that body in your lineup that can make a difference in your lineup right here, right now, you're going to do it.
absolutely. So let's move from the trade deadline to a topic that I was supposed to cover last night. I totally forgot. And when I tell the people the topic that we were supposed to talk about, people are going to say, what were you thinking or what were you doing? But we're going to talk about LeBron James and decision number 4 when LeBron James chose the Philadelphia 76ers. So, Mr. Rick, LeBron James is in Philadelphia, and they just happen to be in the same division as the New York Knicks. So, you being the ultimate Knicks fan, I wanted to ask you, has your mind changed? Are the Knicks still the favorite in the Eastern Conference?
They're defending champions. Why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't they be? And I think the problem that I have with LeBron, I was kind of hoping he'd go to Toronto, but that wasn't going to happen, or Cleveland.
Yep.
I think it would have been a better fit in Cleveland for him. But the problem is in Philly, and there's a lot of unanimity in what I'm about to say, a lot of good talent, but can they play cohesively as a team? I'm not the first one to suggest this. This is what I've gathered listening to Stephen A, ESPN, Fox, basketball notes, and what have you. A lot of talent in that lineup, on that lineup. But can they bring it together and play as a team cohesively and win? That's the big question I have with LeBron going to Philly.
Well, I think here's the one. If you're a Sixers fan, this is what I would say. And I don't necessarily disagree with what you said. I think that LeBron James is one of those few players who is really a coach on the floor. And can he make the other 4 guys play the way that he wants to play? Remember something, and don't forget, aside from Jalen Brown, none of the Sixers starting 5 have won NBA championships. That's a big difference. And there's a difference between being, as you know, a great regular season team and a playoff team that can win it all. And you wonder if that's why the Sixers brought LeBron James in as the final piece and let this guy be the conductor and let this guy help to get this group over the line.
Can he do it at 42?
Great question. Great question. I don't think he's the same player that he was a couple of years ago, but I think in short spurts, he can make it happen. And if he gets hot in the playoffs, you never know. And I'm not saying necessarily the Sixers will win, but it's going to be a very fascinating watch throughout the regular season. The Knicks have gotten to the top of the mountain now. And I kid you about the Knicks quite often, as you know, but the bottom line is that the Knicks are the defending champions, and somebody is going to have to take that crown away from them. I don't know if the Sixers are going to do it. I really don't. If Kawhi Leonard comes to the Raptors, and that's very much an open question right now, I think the Raptors have just as good an opportunity as the 76ers. 76ers have a great starting 5, yes, but I think the Raptors have a more well-rounded team with a far deeper bench.
Well, I can only hope for a Philly Cleveland semifinal matchup in the NBA East next spring.
Wouldn't that be something?
If that happens, okay, then LeBron has succeeded, but wouldn't Cleveland like to really shove it down LeBron's throat for not coming to Cleveland? And a lot to prove for the 76ers to beat Cleveland to get to that pinnacle of the NBA Eastern Conference final.
Well, I'll say this about the Cavs. I thought the Cavs were an up and coming team, but when the Toronto Raptors, with all the warts they had, forced them to 7 games, I don't think the Cavs are as good as a lot of people advertise. Could they win the title in the Eastern Conference? Yes. I'm not so sure they will. I just think they just don't have that one. Well, Paul Pierce used to say they don't have that it factor. And I think that's the thing with the Cavs. Another team that maybe you may be right, very much like the Sixers. A lot of individual talent, but not that it. And when I mean it in the playoffs, the it is to get it across the line. The Knicks have proven that they have the it factor. Oklahoma City, they have the it factor. And there's a lot of teams that are very good, but they may not have the it factor. So, Rick, it's going to be fascinating this NBA season to see LeBron in Philadelphia. We're going to see him a lot more often. Raptors fans are going to see him a lot more often. And you know that there's one thing that LeBron James loves doing more than anything, and that is torturing Toronto basketball fans. We'll see what happens. So, Rick, I wanted to thank you for tonight and stepping in on the trade deadline. Great fun today. I enjoyed watching the coverage. I started on Sportsnet. I went over to the MLB network and I found both coverages pretty good, but I must say, I think MLB did an outstanding job today. Really insightful analysis. And of course, that's what we want to do for our viewers. We want to give you insightful analysis. And I hope we've done that. And if you like what you're hearing, hit like and subscribe. Give us some love. We need it. And you know, as we always say on this program, if you can't play a sport, then be a sport. Bye for now, folks.
À la prochaine.
You got it.